Today we're interviewing Chad Bodmer. With over 12 years of experience in the solar industry, Chad is a seasoned professional specializing in utility, commercial, and residential solar projects. As a licensed electrician and NABCEP PVIV certified expert, Chad brings a wealth of knowledge and hands-on experience to every project. Currently serving as commercial and industrial trainer for Enphase, Chad is dedicated to optimizing site safety, production, quality, and customer service. His efficient and versatile training methods are designed to facilitate and create impactful training programs. Chad's extensive field experience spans building erection, solar installation, renovations, and remodels, making him a valuable asset in the solar industry and his endeavors. Stay tuned for my interview with Chad Bodmer. Hey, everybody. Welcome to What's Up Podcast. What's Up Solar Podcast. This is your host, Emmett Muckles. And today I have a colleague of mine. We've been in the same circles for a couple of years. His name is Chad Bodmer. Well, if you listen to it from the beginning, you know his backstory. But I have a story. So I was a trainer in Chicago, and I was training tons of people. And I came in one day, and Chad is like just working, and Chad is not from the area that I'm in, but he's building me a house. He's building me a shack to put all my tools and a roof to install solar upon. So I always wanted to say thank you for that, because that gave me 3 roofs that I could put people on and scare the crap out of them because they had to get up a ladder. What's been up, Chad?
Yeah, that brings me back to the good old days of training new installers that have never touched a tool, a ladder, a roof, and it is really, I don't know, just reminiscing and takes me back. And you trained a lot of people
Oh,
in the Illinois area during that time. I remember you were doing classes on those 3 roofs, 30, maybe 40 at a time.
yeah, I was. And this is how I knew that I had trained. So I had a training career before we were working for said company, and I trained a lot of people there, but on a specific product. I had trained so many people in the Illinois area that I transitioned to another company. I'm in Texas with Tygo, and I walk up to a site and people start scrambling. They're like, inspectors here. I'm like, no, dude. I'm here for something totally different. So I had trained crews from that's crazy. And that's a blessing, actually, that you can touch that many lives. But you've moved on, and you've moved on to the product side of things. And specifically, as you can see, if you're watching this on video, you can see the Enphase logo. Now, Enphase has been traditionally a residential solution, or popular in the residential. Why did Enphase decide to start offering a commercial product? And is that commercial product 3-phase in all the aspects of 3-phase?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I had been in the installation solar operational game for quite some time.
Yeah.
And I was ready for something different, a little bit of a change up. And that's when I started getting into working with different manufacturers. And I ended up winding up at Enphase, kind of just as a happenstance. It just kind of happened. It kind of a great opportunity fell into my lap, and I was like, you know what? This is what I've been looking for. This gives me an opportunity to really help develop a brand new product line, because you said Enphase is really getting into the commercial.
Right.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because they've been in the commercial space before, but it was really only utilizing single phase inverters and then just doing phase balancing on your own and landing specific circuits on specific phases of a bus bar. So the output of that phase is close from phase to phase. So they've been in the commercial space for quite some time, but not specifically a 208 or 480 output microinverter.
So is this, I see the IQ8 3-phase But it only has a single input from a single module, or is it multiple?
It only has a single input for a single module. So the IQ8P 3P is a 208 volt microinverter. It operates on 208 volt. That's what it outputs. It outputs 480 volt amps,
Yeah.
and it is a single input from one module to module. Now, if you wanted to get into the conversation about repowering, which is
Oh
you know,
boy.
a larger conversation that we could talk about.
Yeah.
But if you didn't want to have to buy new modules and you had lower wattage modules, you could do two, three, maybe four into that one
Oh.
microinverter because that microinverter can handle up to, you know, 640 watt modules on the DC side. So maybe you have an older site and they're using 230s, 250s, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah, you can have the ability to, you know, chain those together and input that into one microinverter, saving you on some repowering aspects.
And that repowering is a big topic today. I was at CPS a little while ago, and they have a solution, and it's geared towards that. Not to bring up another manufacturer, but I just did. Uh, but I started to hearing that in the larger conversation, particularly at NABCEP a couple of months ago, and investigating, especially on the communication side. But going into a rabbit hole here. So with these offerings, can you do uh, different phasing? Oh, I can't even say it now. So you can do a delta, you can do a Y, uh 208. Can you do the 277 with the split phase or with the neutral?
So that's a great question. So the Enphase's current product, the IQ8P 3P 208, that is only 208 on the Y
Okay.
transformer. So if you have the Delta or if you have 277 480, you have to have a transformer. So we only have that one product right now. However, at the end of this year, we'll be coming out with a brand new IQ9 that will be servicing the 480 market, and it opens up the door for a lot of those different types of transformers voltages from the Y to the Delta, different things like that. So at the end of this year, we're really jumping into the full commercial spectrum. And if we go back to where Enphase was, we'll say 10 years ago, like I mentioned, they had been doing commercial projects. And it was typically installers that loved the residential product.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what? I think we can make this work on this commercial building. And they did. There's several installations that are utilizing residential hardware and microinverters. And like I mentioned before, they took it upon themselves to do like the phase balancing and making sure
Mm.
they had certain microinverters land on certain phases so it would all work appropriately. With the new system, the phase balancing is built in, so there's no like guesswork. It's not hard designing. I can design a system for you in a matter of seconds. How many modules do you have? Divide by 12. That's how many circuits you'll have.
Oh, that was one of the good things that I liked about Enphase is I remember when I was introduced to Enphase and I was trying my best to find their design tool. And there is none because if you think about the circuit breaker and you think about the output of that particular when you're stringing them together, if you're looking at the breaker, just don't go over that.
Exactly.
And
So very similar to the residential offering. And this is what I think makes our commercial offering so unique is because it gives any residential solar installer an opportunity to get into commercial
oh
because
yeah.
the commercial product gets installed the exact same way. All the accessories are very similar. Yeah, it's slightly different. They have different nuances, bigger cable, things like that, but everything gets installed the exact same way. You still have a QD cable. That's what we call the QD cable in the commercial. In the residential, it's a Q cable. There's still male and female wearable connectors. There's still the N terminators. There's the ceiling caps for the QD cable. So it gets installed the exact same way. And I think that's a huge opportunity for any residential customer. Because I was talking to one of our customers a little while ago, and a lot of companies do like 50-50 or 75-25, on their business from commercial to residential. And most companies have strictly commercial crews and strictly residential crews.
Yeah.
Well, if you only installed Enphase on both sides, you can use the same exact crews. So when one side kind of slows down or dries up, you can just flex those crews back to the other side. It's still the same process. There's no, large training gap or knowledge gap that you have to bring anybody up to. There's no high voltage DC that you have to have specialized or experienced electricians.
So one of the things when you're dealing with AC and you have and your branches begin to get long is you start to mix and match them in a certain configuration, you get voltage rise. Does that compound when you're dealing with these larger installations, and how do you combat that?
Yes, it does. And voltage rise is always a concern. And with the commercial QD cable, we have center tap connectors built into the QD cable after every sixth microinverter connection.
Mm.
So depending on where you need to cut the QD cable for your circuit length, there's always going to be a connector that you can plug your home run into. That way you don't have to worry about voltage rise concerns. Because yes, if you took 12 microinverters of the IQ8P 3P and put a terminator on one end and pulled your home run from the other end, you're going to have a voltage rise concern.
You
And
are.
some of those microinverters are not going to work.
Yeah.
So every circuit for the IQ8P 3P must be center fed, meaning you have to pull your home run power from as close to center of that circuit as possible. But you don't have to figure out where. There's already connectors built into that cable.
Yeah. What's the value add, and what is the conversion process for someone who is typically going with a central inverter, or B, they're going with string inverters, and converting them to this process where now you have you have multiple points of contact per system.
Yeah, that's a great question. Everybody knows it's not a secret. Enphase is a premium brand. So it is a little bit more expensive per watt, especially when you're talking on large commercial sites. The bigger the site, the heavier, the more upfront cost there is. However, the benefit is to whoever owns that asset.
Yeah.
We talked about repowering a little bit ago. Back, 15, 10, 15, maybe 20 years ago when solar really started picking up steam and there was a lot more commercial installations. Well, now we're talking about repowering and we're having conversation about how many times those inverters have been replaced, how many times the fans have broken down, what's the loss of power or production that those systems have had during that lifespan of 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah. So
So our biggest thing is the commercial microinverter is the same architecture as a residential microinverter.
yeah.
So that means that failure rate is less than 0.055%. That means maybe one out of every 2,000 microinverters might fail in that 25-year lifespan.
Wow.
So if you are an asset owner, I would want to pay that little higher cost because guess what? I don't have to worry about it. I'm buying that guaranteed power. Whereas if I use a centralized string inverter, we know centralized string inverters, most of them are only good for 10 to 15 years. And they have serviceable parts
Yeah.
inside of them. They have fans, they have coolers, cooling fins that have to be cleaned on a regular basis. If they don't, those fans will wear out and then the inverter will shut down to protect itself. And who knows how long that inverter is going to be down. You're going to be losing production from a string or an entire inverter.
Yeah, you've made me think of something else, a positive with moving to a micro, because everything is data today, especially when you get into farms, when you get into large commercial sites. And so, when we were working at this other place, one thing that I saw was drones. So drones are used in O&M to find hot spots, to find poor modules, things of that nature. So you may not have to use it on the O&M side. And I'm just guessing here. You may not have to. use so many tactics on the O&M side because you're moving to a microinverter because now you have the granularity of the system. How does what all is entailed with that? What all does Enphase offer on the O&M side?
So we have, fleet monitoring view, just like our residential offering. So you can monitor the production from every single panel on that site. And if you're a company, and let's say you've installed 15 systems at Bob's Coffee House, and Bob's want all of his coffee houses to have solar on them. We have fleet view, so you can monitor all 15 sites at the same time.
Yeah.
And it makes it a very quick, easy, operation to monitor, see which ones maybe underproducing, overproducing, identify issues right then and there. If there's a microinverter that fails, even if it's for a split second it comes back on, you're going to get notified. So
Yeah.
you can go look at that. And on top of that, if it does fail, and let's say it's an RMA, we have labor reimbursement. So it's not going to cost you, the installer,
Mhm.
anything to go out there and replace it. We're going to send you a new one. We're going to pay you to go out there and replace it. And then you're going to send it back to
And it's going
us.
to be a lot easier on a commercial site versus a residential.
Oh, 100%. Flat roofs, but not only that. Think about if you're on a commercial site, making up numbers here on inverter size, but a 50K DC inverter, how heavy do you think that is?
Uh, that's typically not going on a roof. That's for sure. That's
But
going
that's not
up.
a one person lift down. You're going to send
Yeah.
two people out there to lift that off the wall.
Yeah.
So if a microinverter fails, you only have to send one person out there.
Yeah. And you have the shutdown feature that allows everything to be a little bit safer. Here's one of the questions that um, I'm wondering about. Do you get any crosstalk? Because now, and I've seen this in different factions, because now you have longer runs, you have more cables, and they communicate at about 125 kilohertz. I think that's about right. 125 kilohertz. You're sending these signals. Do you have to do anything special with the Q cables to ensure that the signals are reaching their proper destination and returning the information?
Yes. So if you are on a commercial site that has heavy line noise, and heavy line noise comes from big three-phase machinery, electrical equipment, things like that, we automatically tell you, hey, during the installation process, you should install a line filter after every gateway that you have,
Okay.
as a precautionary method, right? And if you're not sure if you're going to have too much line noise from those equipment, we recommend that you just install an enclosure, just run your conductors through it. That way, if you do have to install a line filter, you can go back out there and install it at any time versus a lot of rework. Now, we already have line filters that we pair our systems with. They've been
Yep.
tested. I believe it's Astrodyne line filters is what we use on the commercial side. And it's plug and play. You follow the instructions, wire line one, line two, line three, output line one, line two, line three, and it's relatively simple to do that installation for a line filter. It doesn't require any additional commissioning or testing. It's just going to help with that PLC communication.
Yeah. Also, have you come out with a larger gateway or a larger combiner box to facilitate these multiple? Because in residential, you had about what, four breakers that you could pop in. But now you're talking about maybe 20, 30, 40. Are there larger boxes, or are you just using the architecture from previous and just localizing it?
Yeah, I'm going to take that question into two different parts. We'll start with the combiner. So the residential combiner, you're right, it is four circuits, which that's changing with the new fourth generation system that's just coming out. I'm not going to do any spoilers there, but new battery, new combiner, it's cool new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah.
And just to plug it, it'll be coming to the Illinois, I believe, RE Plus Midwest next month.
Oh, yeah. I'm speaking at that. Yeah, by the way.
So you'll be able to see it firsthand. It's a new meter collar, new battery. the whole new fourth generation energy system from Enphase will be there, and it is very cool.
Okay.
But back to the commercial stuff, because that's where I currently live. The commercial combiner, we let the installer and the designer decide what size they want because of that issue of, hey, if we say, even if we came out with a 6 circuit combiner box for commercial projects are all over, in size range comparison. You might have 4 circuits, you might have 100 circuits. So what we do is let the designer come up with the best size combiner load panel that they need for that project. So if they need a panel that can hold 30, 20 amp breakers,
That makes sense now.
then boom, you have 30 circuits, and then you size it accordingly for, you're combining those 30 breakers, those 30, 20 amp pole breakers.
So you're using the gateway to monitor everything. So you're probably going to localize a gateway in a NEMA 3 or NEMA 3R4 box with these systems. And I know that the gateways have been fitted so that they could have CTs. Does this new commercial gateway have upgraded CTs, and how many CTs can you install in a single gateway?
Yeah. So the IQ Commercial Gateway 2, which is the one that's compatible with the IQ8P 3P microinverters, each one can only talk to up to 276 microinverters.
That's a lot.
So going back to our communications talk before, it's if you have more than that, now you run the risk of communication
Yeah.
failures to those other microinverters.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that they might not work. That just means you're not going to be able to view them or communicate with them if you got to push new firmware or anything like that. So the threshold is 276, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 276 640 watt modules. That's a good size system.
Yeah, it is.
And you could have multiple gateways on a site. So we have a site going in right now in Florida. I think when it's completed, it'll be almost 2 megawatts and it'll have, I think, 4 or 5 gateways on it. Now, when you do have that many gateways, you have to install line filters for every gateway just to make sure you don't have any crosstalk.
Yeah. And the CTs. So these,
Yeah, I didn't get to
I
that.
know, because I added a question. Is this revenue grade metering as well?
Yes, so the IQ Commercial Gateway 2 comes with 3 production grade CTs inside the box, and it is revenue grade.
Hmm.
You do not have to monitor consumption. It's not required by Enphase, but however, if you do need to monitor consumption on your site, you can purchase the commercial consumption CTs that pair with the IQ Commercial Gateway 2.
Let me,
Those CTs are rated at 600 amps. So what the issue is with a lot of commercial sites is the service coming into a commercial site is larger than 600 amps
yeah.
most of the time. So now we have a remote meter that pairs with our commercial gateway that can monitor consumption on any amperage.
Wow.
And if you have to install that gateway a long ways away from the point of interconnection, you don't have to extend CTs, you don't have to do anything. You just have to run an Ethernet from the remote meter to the
Oh,
gateway.
nice.
So we've already tested it. It works great. And we partnered with Measure Logic as a third party metering software and meter itself. Once you configure their system with their software, you simply go into the installer toolkit and add it to the site. It takes about 15 minutes to commission it and set it up once you've installed it.
Yeah, because CTs were the bane of my existence for about 1 year because people would install them like this and they would install them like this and they would
Hmm.
they would just do them inappropriately and not test the system. So if you can have a meter that is hopefully dummy proof, um, that's a beautiful thing, especially when it comes to commercial applications. Where can people find out more information? Do you have webinars and lessons? I know Enphase University is a great source for finding out about new things because I stay up on it pretty regularly. But are there webinars where people can interact and ask questions about these?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually doing a webinar tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and I am interviewing a company called Zero Grid Power Solutions out of Georgia. They are currently working on a large project for the Boys and Girls Club of Southeast Georgia. They got 5 buildings for them that they're installing solar on. They've done 3 so far. And the purpose of tomorrow's webinar is to get their real live installer feedback so they can kind of share their story and why they chose Enphase, how successful and easy the installation process was, because they're one of the companies that do both residential and commercial. So they're going to talk about how easy it is to flex those crews back and forth.
Okay. Cool.
But I do webinars every month on a variety of topics. This is just happens to be the topic this month. Next month, it might be remote metering and what's coming up for the rest of 2025. So stay tuned to find out what topics are coming. We post the topics on the Enphase installer email that gets sent out monthly.
Yeah,
I post it on my LinkedIn as well. But going back to like the Enphase University question, we have a full certification, design and installation certification for the IQ8P 3P commercial microinverter on Enphase University. It is about a 2 hour long course with quizzes and a test out,
Yeah.
but it's not too difficult. There are a lot of other cool resources that I think go unnoticed because the commercial side of Enphase's business offers a lot more than the residential side.
Really?
And I'm going to get into that right now because we have that dedicated training. That's just one. Yes, the residential has that too. What sets the commercial side apart is we have tailored white glove service. So if you wanted to get into commercial and you had no idea what you were doing, but you sold a commercial job, you had some friends that you installed a residential for, and their auto mechanic shop wants commercial on it, and you're like, I have no idea what to do.
Right.
We have a full team dedicated to making sure that installation goes successfully. We have
Awesome.
free design review services. We have project managers that will help you from point of sale all the way through commissioning. You'll have that one point of contact to help you with any issues that you have along the way.
Nice.
We also have a custom system builder tool. The system builder tool will build a bill of materials for your project.
Is this for commercial? Succinctly for commercial?
It's both. You can use it for residential or commercial. So it makes it very simple. It's going to ask you some questions about your project. Then it's going to spit out every serial number and SKU that you need from Enphase and how many you need of each one. It's also going to tell you how many third-party products you need. So how many 3-pole breakers, the size of the load center you might need, different things like that. So that doesn't go into consumables like wire and conduit or anything like that.
Okay, that's what I was about to say. It gives you the electrical balance of system. I'm like, that's kind of a no-brainer, but I understand what you're saying now. If you're new to Enphase, because if you're typically into the commercial aspect, you're really not. It's not on your radar. Are and you want to find out about these webinars? Is there a place that they're just posted outside of the newsletter? Because the newsletters usually come from people who've already did a buy-in.
Right. So if you go to the Enphase website and you're under, I want to say there's a separate tab for training.
Yeah.
It'll take you to a training page with a bunch of stuff on it. And on that page, there's a little box that has webinars. And if you click on there, it'll show you all the upcoming webinars for residential, commercial, anything that's going on. It also has the on-demand webinars in that same area. And you can filter it by like on-demand, live, different things like that. And that allows you to click on and register for whatever webinar that you want to attend.
What about YouTube? Are there YouTube videos showing like these things? Because, that's when you're in the field, you don't want to sit there in the sun with your phone reading something, or let me go to my car and sit and read this, when I can go to a video and go, oh, yeah, cool. All right, let's get back and
Yeah,
get it done.
100%. And the residential side of Enphase has tons of YouTube videos out there, like tons. So what we did to make sure any commercial stuff didn't get lost in the weeds and you have a direct access, we have a commercial channel. And the only thing we post on that commercial channel is, guess what? Short YouTube videos about the commercial product, processes, installations, best practices, things like that. And I am the only one that actually manages that channel. So if anything needs to get posted to it, it has to come through the commercial guy, right?
Right.
So I try to post a new video every month on that CNI YouTube channel.
Oh, you got to up that game, man. People want this information. You
Keep in mind, I'm the only commercial trainer at Enphase, so my region is all
really?
of North America.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand that. That makes sense. So, one last thing. The Q cable or QD cable, is it substantially larger than the typical cable that people are dealing with? With
No, it's still the exact same wire size, so it's still number 12s. You just have that four wire system. So it's bigger around because
Okay,
it has more wires inside of it, but the wire size is still number 12, just like the residential. And
okay, I
and
got
most
you.
people will be like, well, why don't you go with a number 10 to so you can have more microinverters on a circuit? And when you actually do, our engineers and everybody did the calculations, the offset cost of how much that extra size wire
Yeah.
is versus having those two extra panels, it didn't pencil out, especially with the added weight
Okay.
of that cable.
Yeah, everything
Because
comes down
everybody
to
asks that,
speed.
like, well, why don't you go with number 10? Why don't you do number 8? And you can have a long string. You can have 30 panels on there. That's true. But then you start talking about the cost of those conductors per foot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, any final thoughts regarding this that you'd like for the customer to understand about Enphase's commercial offering?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that Enphase offers is the flexibility and reliability that you get with Enphase. We've seen a lot of companies come and go, and in the
Oh
solar
yeah.
manufacturing world, Enphase is here to stay. The individuals that founded Enphase are individuals that have been in semiconductor business for a long time.
Yeah.
So Enphase is founded and constructed on the most high-powered relevant technology. And it's going to be here for a very long time. It's a bankable company, and they keep pushing the envelope with what semiconductors can do. And our new microinverters are going to be using gallium nitrate, which is going to provide a higher output in a smaller package. So it's going to be an even bigger, better, more powerful microinverters in the next IQ9 series. And it all gets installed the exact same way. Same accessories, same process, same installation. So going back to, hey, I only do residential or I do 50/50, you don't have to have separate crews. You don't have to have high voltage DC techs, installation techs.
Yeah.
It's safer. It's more reliable. There's no serviceable parts. So if I'm selling this to a customer, an asset owner, I'm really going to leverage, hey, you know, my service warranty for you is 2, maybe 5 years. After that, you're responsible for maintaining your own system.
And it's not hard.
Do you want the product that might fail in 10 years? Or do you want the 25-year warranty guaranteed for 25 years that has no serviceable parts that you don't have to go check on?
Yeah, that's great. Um,
And now the other thing to that is with And there's lots of crazy stuff. And I don't want to get into tariffs and
Yeah.
everything that's going on there. But this product is manufactured in Arlington, Texas.
Texas does a lot of solar. I'm finding that out.
They do. So we get with this product, you can get the ITC plus domestic content credit.
Oh,
So at the end of the day, and we've penciled it out in many different ways with like the cheapest commercial string inverter. It has obviously a lower cost per watt than Enphase does, but at the end of the day, it is cheaper per watt when you account for the ITC and the domestic content credit.
oh wow.
So the asset owner does get a cheaper, I don't want to use cheaper, a lower cost option, and it's more reliable.
So, with that, I want to thank you, Chad, for being on the What's Up Solar Podcast. Appreciate you so much. That's it for this episode of the What's Up Solar Podcast, where the future is bright, knowledge is power. And if you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment. Remember, share the Watt. Catch the full video on YouTube. All you have to do is look for What's Up, and that's WATTS, Up Solar Podcast, for more solar truths, tips, and tech talk. Until next time, stay charged, stay curious, and remember, the sun never sends a bill. Peace.